it going, guys? John here. This is the Basic Expert, and sorry this video is late. It is Independence Day. Happy 4th of July to my fellow Americans, and hope you're having a good day today. And this video has been kind of hard to get out, but wanted to get it done for you guys. This week we are continuing our discussion of Classic Traveler. I'm again using the facsimile edition. Link will be to it in the video description to where you can get it on DriveThruRPG and other places as well. You can also get it as a CD-ROM from Far Future Enterprises, so from Mark Miller himself, if you are interested in that. I really like Classic Traveler, that's why we're going over it. These videos haven't done as well as, say, my Basic Fantasy ones, but my hope is that further down the line, people will watch these and be like, Classic Traveler is a cool system, I want to play that. And the cool thing is that it is accessible. You can get this game still, and you can play it, and it's fun. So, we already gone through all of Book 1, which dealt with characters, character generation, and combat, and all those other sorts of things. So this week we are diving into Book 2, which is on starships and deals with starship types, building your own starships, as well as space combat, interplanetary travel, and intergalactic travel as well. So lots of interesting things here, and you can see here what Book 2 goes into: traveling, starship economics, design and construction, starship combat, computers, experience. The end here kind of gets like drugs and experience. I think they're here, we'll get to why they're here in the Starship section, because it's generally something players are going to be doing during downtime, which downtime is kind of baked into the game itself, where you're traveling for a week or 2 weeks through space and your character's just on a starship, so you can spend that time training, researching, and improving your character in various ways. So that's why those are there. And then same with drugs, and then trade and commerce. That is going to be a big part of why Traveler is so cool and what your players will probably be doing. Think Firefly, essentially. Lots of courier type stuff, taking cargo from one place to another. That's what a majority of Traveler campaigns seem to revolve around, is a bunch of essentially freelancers that are shipping mail or cargo or something along the way, and then the crazy adventures that happen while they're doing their mundane sort of job, which actually turns out to be not all that mundane. So this is where we're going to be going for the next few weeks. I don't know how long it's going to take to get through all of this, but we're going to go and see how far we can go with this. So let's talk about traveling. Travelers travel. They move between worlds as well as on their surfaces. The distances such travel covers may be interplanetary or interstellar scale. I said intergalactic earlier, it should be interstellar in scale. Interplanetary travel. So this is worlds orbiting the same star are accessible by interplanetary travel on ships operated by local entrepreneurs or with a variety of small craft. But interplanetary travel takes long periods of time. Since most stellar systems have only one major world, interplanetary travel is infrequent. So for us, it would be, as an example, going from like Earth to Mars. That would be interplanetary travel. Interplanetary travel takes time. The travel formula and diagram on page 10 show a typical interplanetary journey and equations which can determine time required if distance and acceleration are known. Yes, you are going to have to do math in Classic Traveler. Sorry, like more than just basic addition and subtraction, you're going to have to do math. Acceleration required if distance and time are unknown, and distance traveled if time and acceleration are known. All the formulae use the MKS meters, kilometers, seconds unit system, and assume that the ship is undertaking a journey from rest, that it accelerates continuously to midpoint of the trip and then decelerates to rest again. In addition, several travel times and travel distances have been calculated out for ready reference. Interplanetary, so, you know, if you don't feel like doing math, they have some stuff already calculated out for you. Interplanetary travel usually involves the individual's own vessel or a charter schedule. Schedule service is rarely available. So let's go to page 10. Let's skip a little bit and let's look at what it's talking about there. So this is what it's talking about. Your origin world, and you're going to accelerate from this world. And at the midway point, you're going to turn around and you're going to start deceleration at the destination world, so that you pop out where you end where you are supposed to end. Here we have the formula. Let's read these here. The three travel formula assume constant acceleration to midpoint, turnaround, and constant deceleration to arrive at the destination at rest, as shown in the diagram above. There are three variables. If any two are known, the third can be determined using one of the formula above. The variables are time, t, so that's what the t is up there, in seconds, distance in meters, so that's what the d is, and acceleration a. Okay. In meters per second squared. Other units must be converted to these three before using the formula. For example, suppose the player using the units in the miniatures rules described later in this book wishes to determine how long it would take in 1,000 second turns to travel 3 scale meters, or 300,000 kilometers. Each millimeter equals 100 kilometers. Hopefully that makes sense to you. So there's a lot of this is obviously coming from kind of that war game sort of background, where like AD&D does this as well, where here's an inch, but an inch equals like 10 feet or something like that, you know. So something kind of lost on us today, because I think modern games are very much more detached from the wargaming feel, and because of that they just list everything in feet, which is more intuitive for what the game is. But back then, when AD&D was being written and when this game was being written, the line between wargame and role-playing game were not as divided or clear-cut as we think of them today 40 years later, right? So at 1G, to get meters from kilometers, you must multiply by 1,000. 300,000 becomes 300 million meters to get meters per second squared from G's. And he must multiply by 10. 1G equals 10 meters per second squared. The formula then is T in seconds equals 2 times the square root of 300 billion divided by 10, or 10,954. To translate into 1,000 second turns, he divides 1,000 to get about 11 turns. Below are listed the number of typical travel times for various distances and accelerations, times in the most convenient unit, S seconds, M minutes, H hours, and D days. So, if you're going to travel 100 kilometers at 1G, it's going to take you 633 seconds. If you're going to travel 1 million, it's going to take you, at 1G, it's going to take you 7.3 days. So this is kind of handy here. Like, if this kind of scares you, you're probably fine just guesstimating on this if you're not doing it. And keep in mind too that the book already says, as we read, that interplanetary travel is pretty rare. You're not going to have very many systems where there's going to be more than one habitable planet on it. This idea that space is sparse and habitable worlds are pretty rare. So, you know, there's a lot of emptiness in between, which leads for a lot of encounters in between, but that's besides the point. So it's nice that this is calculated here, and obviously the more G's you have, the sooner you're going to get there. But this is for again, going from planet to planet, as if we were going to go from Earth to Mars or Earth to Saturn or something like that. You know, you would look at this and be like, what's the distance? Okay, I know I can figure this out. So alright, let's talk about interstellar travel. This is something that's going to be more common. So worlds orbiting different stars are reached by interstellar travel, which makes use of the jump drive. Once a starship moves to a safe distance from a world, because you don't want the gravity to screw up which there are rules for, to screw up your jump, which could kill your entire crew, it may activate its jump drive. Jump drives are rated from 1 to 6, the number of parsecs which can be traveled in 1 week. Actually, making any jump takes about 1 week, regardless of the distance traveled. Transit times Transit time to 100 diameters from an 8-size world takes 5 hours at 1G. Commercial starships usually make 2 jumps per month. They spend 1 week in jump, followed by 1 week in the star system, traveling from the jump point to the local world, refueling, marketing cargo, finding passengers, leaving the starport, and proceeding to a jump point again. The week in the system usually provides some time for crew recreation and wandering around the planet. Non-commercial ships usually follow the same schedule of 1 week in jump and 1 week in a system. If haste is called for, a ship may refuel at a gas giant immediately and re-jump right away. This allows the ship to make 1 jump per week, but makes no provision for cargo, passengers, or local stops. So let's talk about this for a second. You're going to want to be, your party, your group of adventurers, star adventurers, are going to want to be looking for ways to make money. And that's going to be through getting cargo or through getting passengers and these sorts of things. You're going to learn really quick that if you give your players a starship, the upkeep for that starship, for that ship, is going to be immense. They're going to have payments, like a car payment, but it's going to be a lot of money, usually on a 30 to 40 year payment plan. And you're going to want to have crew. The bigger the ship is, the more crew you're going to need to employ, which means you have to make payments. You're going to have to keep up starship repairs when the ship breaks down, which we'll get into in a little bit. So owning a starship can be very, very expensive. And so giving your players a starship can be one of those things where they're very excited at first until they start looking at how much they're going to constantly be in the red. And are they going to make a choice? Are they going to cease making payments on their ship and kind of become outlaws, or going to keep trying to pay the bills? So that's part of the fun of it, I think. I think some people complain about that, like, oh, I'm always broke. This feels like too much like real life. And well, it's kind of like that, but it's in a sci-fi setting where, you know, you have a lot of different options that you otherwise wouldn't have in real life. So interstellar travel is priced on the basis of accommodations. Prices cover a trip from starport to starport, encompassing 1 jump, regardless of length. There are 4 types of passage. High passage. The best method of travel is called high passage, which involves first-class accommodations and cuisine. High passengers have the services of the ship's steward, entertainment, and complete attention to their comfort. There is a baggage allowance of up to 100,000 kilograms. High passage costs 10,000 credits. Middle passage. In order for starships to fill their staterooms with passengers, middle passage is offered in a standby basis. In the event that not enough high passages are sold, while middle passengers occupy staterooms normally similar to those occupied by high passengers, they do not receive the service or entertainment accorded the higher paying passengers. In addition, the quality of the cuisine is rather low. Baggage totaling 100 kilograms is allowed, and middle passenger may be bumped in the stateroom taken by a late arriving passenger. The middle passenger's ticket is returned, but no other compensation is made. The middle could then buy a high passage and bump another middle passenger if the extra cost seemed worth it. Middle passage costs 8,000 credits. The working passage, this is like the captain, the crew, these sorts of people. These are considered to be hired and standard salary. In order to be hired for working passage, the individual must have some experience in the position for which he is hired. Jack of all trades may be substituted. Baggage totaling 1,000 kilograms is allowed. So if you're unwilling to give your players a starship and they are kind of reluctant to take on that kind of debt, you could put them in as a working passage on a starship, and that could easily be a very interesting sort of adventure as well. You then have low passage. Transportation while in cold sleep. Suspended animation is possible at relatively low cost to the passenger. The passenger is placed in a low passage berth before the ship takes off and travels the entire journey in a state of suspended animation. He does not age and requires very little life support. Unfortunately, the low passage system involves some intrinsic dangers to the passenger, and he runs some risk of not surviving the voyage. Throw 5+ for each passenger when he is revived after the ship has landed. DMs. So if you have a an attending medic of expertise of 2 or better, +1. Low passenger with endurance of 6 or less, -1 to the roll. Failure to achieve the throw to revive results in death for the passenger. Refunds or civil liability of low passenger fails to survive the trip are not allowed. Low passage costs 1,000 credits and includes a baggage allowance of 10 kilograms. Let's just roll. Let's see. Let's say we have an attending medic with an expertise of 2 or better. It's going to give us a +1, and let's see if this passenger is going to live. He lived. I rolled a 10, 11 with a +1. Let's say he has a no. We don't have a attending medic, and let's say that this guy has an endurance of 6 or less. He's dead. Rolled a 4, so you can see how that works. So this is interesting here too. It's just like little lore bits in classic Traveler here. As interstellar travel has developed, the field has developed its own dangers and customs. The following are just a few. The low lottery. It is customary for the captain to contribute 10 credits out of each low passage towards a lottery. Each low passenger randomly guesses the number of low passengers who will survive the trip. If the winner does not himself survive, the captain receives the money. The ship's steward administers the lottery. So that's, to me, kind of funny. The Traveler's Aid Society. Individuals who have decided that they wish to pursue a life of travel and adventure may elect to join the Traveler's Aid Society in order to take advantage of its facilities and passage dividends. See Book 1. It's very expensive, as we discovered in the other video. Hijacking. You can get hijacked. So there's some rules here for it. Nevertheless, there is a chance of an attempted hijacking for ransom or to steal the multi-million credit vessel itself. Roll 3 dice for 18+ to indicate a hijacking attempt. This throw does not apply if all passengers are player characters. When an attempt occurs, randomly determine the number of hijackers, their identities, characteristics, and weapons, and implement their attempt at some point during the voyage. They will gain complete control of the ship only after defeating all other individuals on the ship. The anti-hijacking program is functioning. There are programs that allow it to like steal off the cockpit or whatever it is, the control room. The hijackers will be able to enter the bridge. That's what the term is, the bridge. Gaining access to the controls only on a throw of 5 or less. So you roll 3. It's very rare, but you roll 3, and if you roll 18, then you have a hijacking on your hands. Skipping. Most starships are purchased on credit, and this is the fun part, and only the monthly payments required against the multi-million credit debt are staggering. The owner or captain may decide to steal the ship himself instead of remaining under the load. Passengers have no way themselves of determining if a specific ship is in such status. Throw 12+ to determine that the commercial ship is of this type. So you'd roll 2d6, I think, and if it's a 12 or more, then this captain has defaulted on his loan. Ships which have skipped or are subject to repossession attempts if it's detected by authorities. Such attempts may range from the formal service of papers through legal injunctions to armed boarding parties. On each world landing, throw 12+ to avoid a repossession attempt. Apply a DM of +1 for 5 parsecs distance from the ship's whole planet to a maximum of +9. The ship has called on the same world twice within the last 2 months. Apply a DM of -2. So we've got some rules here for, you know, if your players do have a ship and they want to skip payments, they can do that. Piracy. A starship may be attacked by pirates while entering or leaving a system. Similar encounters may involve customs agents or military vessels, including blockades. The ship encounter table later in the book indicates the procedures, and there's a whole section that covers this topic. And rude. As with any mechanical device, this is malfunctions, a starship can malfunction. The 2 major malfunctions are drive failure and misjump. The primary influencing factors are unrefined fuel and a lack of maintenance. So, I'm not going to go through all of this here, but essentially, and then we'll call this video done, because then we'll get to ship economics in the next video. There's different kind of malfunctions that can happen, and they can be a result of refined and unrefined fuel. If you're going by a gas giant and you're skimming off the side of it to get fuel, you are using unrefined fuel. Some ships are capable of doing unrefined fuel, and some are not. And because of that, you have failures to both the drive itself, and then sometimes when you perform jumps, the fuel and the type of fuel can be a problem. We should probably read these rules just to do it. The way you minimize these sorts of problems is keeping up on the maintenance of your ship, which does cost money. Drive failure. Each week, throw 13 plus for a drive failure. Apply the following DMs. +1 if using unrefined fuel and not equipped to do so. +1 per engineer missing from the crew list. +1 per month past annual maintenance overhaul date. When malfunction occurs, then throw 7 or more for each drive in use. Jump, maneuver, power plant. Determine which actually fail, if any. Failed drives cease operation completely. Maneuver drives will no longer thrust. Jump drives will fail and indicate that they cannot support jump. Power plants stop delivering power. Batteries will provide life support and basic lighting for 1D days. So you roll 1D6 days. Throw 10 plus per day for repair attempt with DM plus engineering skill of the attending engineers to fix them temporarily. More complete repairs must be made at a starport by qualified personnel. So using bad fuel, not keeping up on maintenance can cause you to be dead in the water, and that could be really bad depending on where you're at in space. Misjump. Each time the ship engages in a jump, throw 13 plus for a misjump. Apply the following DMs. So you're going to roll 2. And as you can see, a misjump is pretty rare, but if you're not doing things right, you're going to give yourself modifiers that will increase your chances of getting that 13 or more. +1 if using unrefined fuel and not equipped to do so. +5 if within 100 planetary diameters of a world. So, if you are too close to a planet, that will screw up your jump. That's why it was saying earlier you need to move away from a planet before. You can't just be like in orbit and like, I'm going to do a jump. It will screw up your jump. The gravity of the planet is going to mess it up. +15 if within 10 planetary diameters of a world. If the result is 16, then the ship is destroyed. 16 or more than the ship is destroyed. A misjump is an unpredictable random jump. Throw 1 die. Oh, you throw 1 die. Okay. To determine the number of dice thrown, 1 to 6. The number of dice to determine the number of hexes in length the misjump is. Then throw 1 die to determine that a direction of the misjump, one of the 6 directions possible on the hex grid. Finally, throw 1 die to determine the number of weeks spent in jump space before the ship reemerges at its new location. So, misjump could be as bad as you end up someplace where you didn't intend to end up, and then which could lead to a fun adventure itself. Like, where are we? Oh, we got to figure this out. Could lead to some crazy unknown place in space. Could also mean your ship is destroyed. So, there's that. I think I'm going to end this video here. If you appreciate what I do, I want to really direct you towards my Subscribe Star page. I have lots of stuff here. If you are a Subscribe Star supporter, you have access to Blades and Devilry, where I'm writing my Cowpunchers rules conversion to a swords and sorcery style skill-based dice pool game that is heavily influenced from BX. It's like, think Cowpunchers and BX, just I forced them to kiss and make out with each other. That's what I'm doing with that. So check that out. You also get access to dungeon maps like this every week, which I need to make one for this week. It'll be coming. And you get an adventure a week, which was this one here, The Caves of Corrupted Flesh, which is an OSR adventure. You can see it here. Just a multi-page adventure here with some stat blocks for creatures and areas, dungeon map, and as you can see, you get a hex map with this adventure as well as the layer for the adventure itself. This is Roll20 compatible at 70 pixels per square, so it should fit easily in your online games. And yeah, I'm thankful for the 10 supporters that I have right now, 10 or 11. Really means a lot to me. If you really appreciate what I do and you want to make sure that I keep making content, please consider supporting me on here. It would mean a lot to me. Check out Cowpunchers. It's a copper bestseller on DriveThruRPG. It's on Lulu. It will eventually be on itch as I wait to be non-exclusive on DriveThruRPG. I'm working on my Aztec game as well, so keep an eye out for that. Whenever that I'll have something more to talk about with that. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully this video wasn't too boring. Kind of just going through Traveler Rulebook. Next week we'll talk about Starship economics and how that can play a role in your game. So I look forward to that. I love Classic Traveler and I love talking about it, so I look forward to making more of these videos. So check out Subscribestar if you want to support this kind of content and you want to support what I'm doing. And like and subscribe if you haven't already. It would mean a lot to me. Until the next video, guys, I'll talk to you later. Peace out.